Okay, this is lesson 9.8. It's the last lesson in Unit 9. We're going to go over the warm-ups, so if you need to pause the video, go right ahead. Now, a lot of you, I noticed, are adding the numbers outside without the numbers being the same inside. If the numbers aren't the same inside, you cannot add the numbers on the outside. So you cannot go, oh, 2 minus 10 is negative 8, and then, I don't know, what would you do then? You can't. You have to get the radicals the same, so I'm going to see if I can simplify it. 2, 14, 2, and 7, yes. These 2's can come out, so I get 2 square root of 7 minus 20 square root of 7. How did I get minus 20? Well, these two 2's come out. 2 times 10 is 20. 10 is negative, so it's negative 20. We've discussed that ad nauseum in class, okay? Negative 18 square root 7. Here, eight is 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2. So, 1 2 is going to come out. 6 square root 2. 18 is 2 and 9, 3 and 3. So 1 3 is going to come out. That's going to turn that to minus 12 square root 2 minus 6 square root 2. If that is not that simple for you, you need help. You need to come in here or go to the PACE lab. Okay, to undo a square root, you simply square the square root. That's all we're doing today, is squaring the square root. So let's look at number 1. I have to find out what's the square root of 3. Now, I'm sorry, what's the square root of x? And it equals 3. Well, what is the square root of something that equals 3? What is the square root of something that equals 3? Square root of what equals 3? What? Thank you. Who said that? 9 is correct. The square root of 9 is 3. Okay, so now, in order to get rid of a square root, you just square. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So here, I'm going to square the square root of x, and I'm going to square the 3. The square and the square root cancel, leaving me x equals 9. Now that makes sense because the square root of 9 is 3. Okay? That's all we're doing here. When we have only the square root, we square both sides. There's our answer. However, before applying what I just taught you, the root needs to be all by itself. Okay? Look here. This right here is not alone. Why is it not alone? Because it has the negative 3 with it. This here is alone because it only has the square root with it. So, here in the alone one, I can just go ahead and square now. Cancels. X equals 100. In the square root of x minus 3, I cannot just square it. I have to get rid of the negative 3. How do I get rid of the negative 3? I add 3. I add 3 to both sides. So I get the square root of x equals 10. Now, my square root's alone. X equals 100. Okay? Now, here's what else you need to be careful of. This right here is this square root in number 5. Is that square root alone? Yes, it is. Because everything is inside the square root house. Everything is inside. It's alone. Is everything inside here? No. There's a 3 on the outside. So let's deal with number 5 first. Everything is alone. Even though there's two things inside my square root, it's all inside the square root. So the square root's alone. So I square both sides. X minus 1 equals 16. Am I done? No, x isn't by itself, is it? So how do I get rid of the minus 1? X equals 17. Well, let's see if that's true. The square root of 17 minus 1 equals 4. What's 17 minus 1? 16. Does the square root of 16 equal 4? Yeah, that's a true statement. Okay, now, what do I have to do in number 6 to get rid of the 3? What's going on? 3 what? 3 times the square root of x plus 1. How do I undo multiplication? The 3's cancel. The square root of x plus 1 equals 4. Now, is the square root alone? Is there anything on either side of the square root? No, everything's inside. So I square it. X plus 1 equals 16. X equals 15. This is extremely simple, but it looks different than what you're used to. And we haven't solved for x in a while, so. Now, let's look at number 8. I want you to understand in number 8, the 3 is outside, and that 5 is outside. That 5 is not in the radical house. So, what do I get rid of first, the 3 or the 5? What? Let's look at this. You shouldn't laugh at somebody who sneezes. Say bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you. Here, 3x plus 5 equals 8. What would I do first? Well, I would get rid of the 5, right? Always get rid of the loner first. Okay, same thing when you have radicals. Always get rid of the loner first, so what am I going to do first? No, always get rid of the loner first. This 3 and the x is multiplication. They're attached. The 5 is the loner. You have to get rid of, you either add or subtract, then divide. So I'm going to subtract 5 here. 3 times the square root of x equals 3. Now I divide by 3. The 3's cancel. The square root of x equals 1. Now I square them. X equals 1. Because 1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1. See, when you don't understand basic math, it's hard to understand basic algebra, and it's hard to do more complex basic algebra problems. But this is what you're going to be doing. Get rid of your adding and subtracting first, then divide, then square, and then do anything else you have left. So here, let's go back to number 7. What would I do first in number 7? Number 7, I would divide first because this is all inside the radical house. So here, I would divide both sides by negative 3. The square root of x plus 5 equals 4. Now, you don't get rid of the 5, it's inside the radical. So you have to get rid of the radical. So you square both sides, x plus 5 equals 16, x equals 11. And you can just copy this down. You'll never understand it if you just keep copying it down. Okay, for the recording, we're going to do one more for the recording, then we're going to go back and you're going to do some. This, what do I get rid of first in number 12? The 33, yes. I have to subtract 33 first. So this is 5 over 2, negative 5 over 2, times the square root of x equals, this is going to be negative 10, right? Okay, have I gotten rid of everything outside my radical? No, not yet. What do I do next? Multiply both sides by the bottom number of the fraction. Notice how I took this negative and moved it to the bottom number. That negative can go with the top number or the bottom number. It doesn't matter. I like to put it with the bottom because now I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2. That's how we get rid of fractions. We multiply both sides by the bottom number. That cancels. 5 times the square root of x equals positive 20. How do I get rid of the 5? That's right. Divide both sides by 5. The square root of x equals 4. How do I get rid of the square root? Square it. X equals 16. There's a lot of steps here, but every single one of these steps I've already taught you except for square the square root. Square both sides to get rid of the square root once the square root's alone. That's all I'm teaching you today. Square the square root to get rid of it. Do it to the other side once it's alone. Okay, if you have any questions, please feel free to come in and ask. Have a great day.